Okay, to be perfectly honest, I looked at this picture on Crunchyroll, and I immediately had no desire to watch this show. Just everything about this image just feels wrong to me and looks like something that would annoy me. That this guy looks annoying. This guy looks annoying. He looks annoying. Um, these screen caps, all of this just looks very dry, typical, styleless, soulless anime shit. So I didn't even want to click on episode 1, but I did. And I think it's the most annoyed I've been the fastest since the fucking Asterisk War. Everything about this show was just devastatingly obnoxious. It opens with this incredibly edgy, fucking pretentious intro where there's like a narrator talking about how, you know, everyone who's ever died is buried right under our feet, and it's like explaining this while showing one kid trying to like jump off a building to commit suicide, but it doesn't work, so he takes a shard of glass and tries to stab himself in the neck, and that fails too. And then there's this other guy who's like beating up some guys who were trying to rape some high school girl, and he like kicks their asses. And now all of that could be fine if it was presented in like a really dark and sinister tone, and like it had like cool visuals, but it looks like shit. It just looks like generic anime, and it's not well animated. And the scene with the kid, the guy like beating up the rapists, was like so badly choreographed. I actually laughed out loud at it. Like it was horrible. And from there, the episode just launches into like everything that we see is like confusing or bizarre. Like a kid holds out a cell phone, and then it has like a hollow screen appears above it, kind of like in the Asterisk War, where they had like the random hollow screens, but then sometimes it was just like a mental construct, and sometimes it was a physical thing. This kid's got a phone with just a hollow screen above it that can do the things. It didn't make any sense. It didn't look like there was any peripheral for it. It just looked like a normal cell phone that for no reason had a screen over it. And then there was all this other like weird random technology, some dumb robot that didn't look like it served any meaningful purpose, that was just there to like, that could, you know, to destroy stuff or whatever and get in the way. Everything about it was obnoxious and bad. And I was really shocked in the OP when I saw the name Peach Pit show up as the original character designers, because for one thing, they haven't done anything in a long time. But Peach Pit was this manga duo, these two women who did character designs for Rosin Maiden, and they were the original authors of Shugokara, and probably also, yeah, I think Rosin Maiden was also based on a manga, and Deers, the deer with the capital S at the end, and they have a very distinctive look to their designs. Like they're known for like lots and lots of hair, drawing like this, like tons of individual strands of hair, and these very round eyes. I mean, like if you look at their artwork, it's all very wispy and detailed, and it's very distinctive. And their outfits are really like detailed and cutesy and stuff. They're great at costume designs. It's one of their best strengths, I would say. And this show, I could see little elements, like when they introduced the girl who's like dressed in this weird pink getup that was kind of a cute outfit, and I could, like, if I think of it as Peach Pit drew this, then I could see it. I could see the elements there, but just the overall look of the show is so fucking bland and shitty looking that it's obvious that like whoever adapted their designs to animation, or you know, the studio animating it, just was not talented enough, or just didn't put enough effort into actually capturing Peach Pit's art style, which usually looks really nice and is a draw to a show, but this show looks like shit. And it's a shame that it's the first time that they've been kind of used in a while. Anyway, yeah, obviously I dropped it. Okay, what's next? Number 1, Drifters. I know this show, you know, it was like the most popular show other than Yuri on Ice of last season. And it's not badly rated, but I only ever hear negative things about it. So I'm curious about whether or not I'll like it.
Really wanted to wear my damn Alucards for this, but I can't figure out where they are in time. Anyways, I watched the first two episodes of Drifters, and it's okay. I don't really feel any strong urge to continue it, so I'm just gonna drop it for now. But man, it really took me back to the early mid 2000s for the obvious reason that it's based on a manga by Kota Hirano, the same guy who did Hellsing, and it feels exactly the same. It's, completely his style. Everything that's in it is like it feels like watching Hellsing again in some ways. Which granted, I never finished any iteration of Hellsing. I watched like half the original show, read 3 volumes of the manga, and saw like the first episode of Hellsing Ultimate. And I never dropped any of them, just never finished any of them. And that's why this reminds me of the mid 2000s, because Drifters feels like the kind of show that back when I was first like getting big into anime in the early mid 2000s with my cousin Boyd, this feels like a show that my cousin Boyd would have bought the first DVD because we would have heard that this was a super cool show and that it was this violent action show, and he would have bought the first DVD and we would have watched it, and I would have liked it and always intended to get back to it but never would have done so. And that's how I feel. That's how shows tended to go for me back then, because it's the kind of show that has a very distinctive attitude and style, and those are attractive and fun, but like the characters and plot are not that gripping. Like, it doesn't make me feel like I need to continue it. It's more like the kind of thing I'm just happy to know it exists and to be like, yeah, if I ever want that feel, I can go watch this show. But it's not something that I like generally seek out. And yeah, like watching this, I sort of like how I feel with sports anime, that like I should, like, anytime I'm watching this is time I'm not watching Hajime no Ippo. Like with this show, it's like this is fine and all. There's nothing like wrong with it, but it just makes me feel like, man, I should go finish Hellsing one of these days. Because I like Hellsing in general for its attitude and style. I like I like the feel of these gothy dark characters who are always smiling and they're all crazy and they're all just doing violent, insane shit, and it's very crass and just about having a good time, with a violent edge to it. I like that. I like Kota Hirano's style in general, but again, like, this show doesn't particularly appeal to me. Hellsing does more so because I like vampires and I like crazy fucking weird powers. Like, this show has the same sense of like violent crazy shit happening where, like, in the second episode, the main character like beats a dude to within an inch of his life by pounding a sheath against his face, and then gets like everyone in the village to go stab the guy to death. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that you only get from Kota Hirano, like going so far over the top with the violence but still making it kind of fun and not so dark that it's like disturbing, even though the things that are happening are like deeply fucked up. But you're on the side of the character doing the fucked up thing. It's fun to watch them do that thing because the villain they're beating up is, a piece of shit. For me, like, for years, one of my favorite scenes in anything, really a deeply influential scene to my own style of writing back when I was trying to be a writer, is when Alucard kills what's his name, something Valentine, in one of the early chapters of Hellsing, where like he like transforms half of his body into a dog monster and eats this guy's legs off, and then like a gun comes out of the mouth of a dog head and shoots the guy. It's like this like ridiculous, over the top, crazy shit. And I've always loved that. That's my favorite kind of violence. But again, like, the atmosphere of this show is not quite as up to my taste. It's not as over the top. It's not as like gothy and stuff. It's more it's about samurai and like the ancient Japan flavor kind of thing, which is fine in itself but not as much my thing. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the way that this show just suddenly has these weird comedic moments where it like totally destroys the tone of the scene. And I get the complaint. I didn't hate it, but I thought it was not done well in animation. And it's the same thing. Some people compared it to Full Metal Alchemist, and it is exactly the same, the way that it does these tone shifts. And the thing is that this is really just a problem of adapting manga, because in the manga, those would have been tiny little weird, like, off to the side panels, you know, where it's like you'd see probably a big violent scene happening across the main pages, but then like to transition into the next scene would probably be like a tiny little sketchy piece at the bottom with like handwritten dialogue, you know. And when they try to adapt that to animation, the problem is that those little boxes, which you're meant to just kind of breeze past at the bottom of the page, suddenly have as much screen space and as much screen time as a real scene. So it does feel like this jarring shift in like the presentation of the show, whereas in manga, it's like you just kind of you barely even process those things usually. And this is a problem even in comedy anime, where like the little offshoot gags that are not really meant to be dwelled on take up, you know, part of the actual scene and are treated like they're equal almost. And so I think that's why those scenes feel so weird and jarring, is that they would have probably made more sense in the manga and not so much in animation. And like you know, when I put this show down after 2 episodes, I was like, even though the show has a pretty interesting aesthetic, I don't know if I like it particularly, but it's definitely different looking, and I appreciate that. It's kind of cool. But I still left with the feeling like I'd rather just read the manga, and, you know, this kind of goofy, you know, not very serious story that's mostly just for fun would be probably more fun to just breeze through, just reading chapter after chapter, you know, in one sitting and just finishing it, as opposed to, you know, watching it strung out over 22-minute episodes. So, yeah, I don't think it's bad based on what I've seen. I don't know how it goes from there, but, yeah, didn't leave a strong enough impression for me to feel like I should continue and finish the show.
Alright, moving along. Let's see what we get. 22. Nazotokine. Never heard of it.
Dear God. I watched 1 episode of that, and it was exhausting. It was only 7 minutes long, and it was exhausting. And the reason is that, like, I started it, and the OP plays. It's a full-length OP. And, like, the images in the OP, like, all looked like it was just like a bunch of character portraits, like kind of sliding across the screen with like a, you know, simplistic background. And as it was going, I started to think all of these look like they're going to be shots in the show. Like this looks like each of these is just the character layer of the animation put under a different background. And I was like, I wonder if I'm going to see all these shots in the show. And then immediately that was the case. Every single shot that was in the OP is in the first episode. And the show is just like, you know, character portrait, like talking heads. Just like heads looking at each other and talking. And it quickly started to disturb me, and I wasn't sure why. And then I realized it's because no one was blinking. They don't blink. The characters just stare empty-eyed at one another, and their mouths move, and they don't move, and their eyes don't move, and they just stare and don't blink and talk. And it was freaking me out, man. It made it was like when you see someone not blinking for too long, it makes you feel uncomfortable. So yeah, that's why I felt weird, and also I don't get what the fuck the point of this show is. It was really dumb. So yeah, I'm not gonna watch any more of it, obviously.
All right, big money, no whammy. Big money, no whammy. Number 4, that's Watashi ga Motete do Sunda, which I think is Kiss Him Not Me. Let's see. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, I just watched the first 2 episodes of Kiss Him Not Me, and once again, it's another show that I more or less enjoy, but don't really feel any need to continue and finish. In this case, because it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, and I did a quick check of like some reviews to see if maybe it would go anywhere, and it pretty much confirmed my suspicion. that it's not going to. That's the thing about shoujo manga adaptations. A lot of them are a lot of fun, and like when it comes to shoujo manga, I tend to enjoy it because the main character is usually a cute girl with a fun personality who you're watching in like a sort of laid back comedy hijinks scenario. But they also tend to not go anywhere because shoujo manga fucking goes on forever, and the anime adaptations rarely cover a whole lot of the manga. And you know, most of it is just like this, where you've got one girl, four boys, you don't know who she's gonna pick, and the whole show is just about juggling them, sort of. And yeah, I feel like this could go on literally forever and nothing could change. So the concept of the show is that it's this fat fujoshi girl who just watches guys and like ships them in her head, and then one day she wakes up and she's suddenly gorgeous for no particular reason, and all the guys who she was formerly shipping now are in love with her and are trying to court her. She doesn't really know how to deal with it because she's an otaku who's into 2D stuff. I have to wonder with these shows, because this happens a lot with fujoshi characters in anime. Do real life fujoshi ship the real guys around them? Because speaking for me personally, as a hardcore otaku and formerly a very hardcore Yuri shipper, didn't do a whole lot of shipping of real people. I mostly would just ship anime characters who I thought seemed like they would go together well. Not so much like humans, but then again, I also have like no attentiveness of the people around me whatsoever. And I don't know if that's a typical otaku trait or if it's just me, but whenever I see fujoshi like in anime, they often are doing this, and I get that. I'm not sure if that's just like because it's anime and that's the only way for the conceit to work. Like, you know, you don't want to watch it wouldn't make any sense in this show in particular. You know, if she was just someone who yaoi ships guys in anime, then it would have no bearing on the actual plot of the show. So it's like it has to be, you know, that she ships her classmates. But I'm wondering if any fujoshi actually do that. Feel free to let me know, any fujoshi watching these videos. I know there's some of you. But in any case, like, with a show like this, I like the main girl. I think it's a fun little cozy show. But I don't care about any of the guys. Nothing's going to make me care about any of the guys. And so, like, the thought of watching the show to see each of the guys get, like, fleshed out and, you know, have, like, their backstories or, like, have them form more connections with the girl, I'm not going to care about any of that, you know? Like, they're all just some pretty boy to me. They mean nothing to me, nor will they probably ever. And I couldn't help but think that the guy, there's like the senpai character who's like extremely nice and caring and thoughtful, and I'm like, this guy seems perfect. Fuck the other three guys who are all useless. Just get with that guy. That guy's obviously the best guy. But then I thought about it and I was like, maybe this mindset only happens like for me. Like if I was a fujoshi, maybe it'd be like, no, the rules are different. It's not about, you know, it's not always about just the obvious best choice, you know, the fiery jackass guy, you know, has his own appeal. Oh, the gap moe of when he, you know, tries to be a good person in spite of his personality, and I'm just like, not appealing to me, you know, a girl thing, not my thing. But yeah, anyway, it's still it's a fun show. I could easily see enjoying this if I was, you know, if I had any interest in guys, I guess, or like watching a show, you know, watching a shoujo anime about being a fujoshi. Obviously, I'm not a fujoshi, kind of disqualified, but yeah, whatever. It's all right. Okay, we're making progress, getting closer and closer to that beautiful ending. Number 12, Touken Ranbu Hanamaru. Don't know anything about this one. Let's give it a go. Let me tell you one of many stories I could tell about why I am a lesser man than my friend Don-san, my old friend who I used to watch anime with back in the day.
My friend Don-san and I spent a lot of time watching cute girl doing cute things shows. We were both into moe at a time when being into moe was a much more controversial thing even than it is now. It was sort of the bane of much of the anime fandom's existence, but there were other people who were into it, and I was one of them, and so was Don-san. And we would sit around and watch those shows. Now, I distinctly remember when in 2011, 6 years ago, when a show came out by the name of Kimi to Boku. And I did not bother watching it. I didn't even give it a try, simply because it was an all-male cast. Meanwhile, my friend Don-san and many other people watched this show and essentially reported that it's exactly the same thing as any cute girls doing cute things slice of life show, and just as good as most of those. The only real difference is that it's an all-male cast. And that was when I realized, as I have realized many, many times, that I am a lesser man in every way than my friend Don-san. Because, yes, it is important to me that it's a show about cute girls. I can't help it. It's in my code, as Kanye West would say, in reference to Wreck-It Ralph. So, Touken Ranbu Hanamaru. This is a show that I'm looking at, and, like, it's basically a cute boys doing cute things show, is the impression I'm getting from watching, like, the half of the first episode. And, like, the character designs are solid. They're pretty nice looking. They're cool. I guess I would say they're adorable, just not really to my taste, you know? It's a bunch of guys. It seems like it's got a lot of energy and fun. It's sort of vibrant. It's got a decent soundtrack. The characters are all just kind of fun, happy-go-lucky guys doing whatever. And I know for a fact that if I was watching this exact same thing happening and it was all cute girls, I'd be much more inclined to watch more of it. Not to say that I necessarily, I mean, nothing that's happened so far has been very interesting, so it's not like I'm saying, oh, I would automatically watch and like this if it was cute girls. But if it was this quality of character designs, but they were all cute girls, I know I would want to give it a second chance. I would want to like it. There's been tons of shows, tons of cute girl shows that I dropped early on in spite of a strong urge to want to like it, because when I see a show with cute girls in it, I want to like that show. I don't usually, yesterday when I watched Long Riders, and I was like, I want to like this because it's got cute girls and I want to watch them do whatever, but the show's boring. But with this show, I feel no particular desire to like it. I'm looking at it and I'm just going, well, this is obviously not for me. This obviously is not my kind of show, even though, if you just flip the genders of all the characters, it would definitely be my kind of show and I'd be totally wanting to like it. So yes, I am a shallow man who just wants to watch shows about cute girls. You found me out. You unzipped me. Touken Ranbu Hanamaru. Incidentally, I don't know if this is just because I'm not Japanese, but I will never understand the unbelievable proliferation of Sengoku-era shit in anime. It's just so, it's really its own genre, stuff about the Sengoku period. Really, it's several of its own genres. There's ones that are all about hot Bishonen samurai, and then there's the ones that are all about, I guess there's also the cute girl samurai ones, and then there's also the ones that are trying to be realistic. So there's three separate, very popular and prolific genres of Sengoku-era shows. And I totally don't really get the appeal at all, but, to me it reminds me of, the obsession of Civil War reenactments of the South, albeit with less racist overtones to cloud it and make it less socially acceptable to be interested in. Yeah. What else was I going to say? Yeah, just simply that, okay, it's not impossible for me to like these kinds of shows, even when it's a guy cast. I only watched 4 episodes of it, but I did enjoy Bakumatsu Rock, because it was so audacious and hilarious.
and that really transcended the fact that it was a show about pretty boys. But even then, I didn't make it that far in, so yeah. Okay, I've redone my numbers again. We're down to 15 short shows, and then we'll finally get to the long ones again. I think Mahotsukai Precure might even end like today or tomorrow, so even that will be in the long shows finished list, and everything from last year will have been finished. Anyways, number 9, Vivid Strike. All right, this will be interesting. As someone who's consumed everything Nanoha up to this point, I'll have the most context of anybody. Alright, so as you probably know, Vivid Strike got its own video instead of being in this one. So we'll just move on to the next show. Number 2, oh, Season 2 of Hibike Euphonium. That'll probably be a whole show I watch also. This decision might seem a little weird and hasty to some people, but maybe spot on to others. Because I mentioned on Twitter that I was 3 episodes into Euphonium Season 2, and I don't get it. I don't get the appeal anymore. I'm really struggling to be invested in it. And it seemed like a lot of people agreed. I wasn't quite expecting that, because it seemed like I had heard a lot about S2 being even better than Season 1 from some people. But a lot of people seem to not like it. And I guess I'll throw my hat in with that crowd. Some people were telling me the second arc is much better, so I just kind of skipped ahead to episode 7 after 3 to start the second arc. And, like, it was the kind of thing where I got what it was about and then just had no desire to watch it. And it's hard to explain exactly why, because there's some presumptuousness involved here, but hear me out. I think this suffers from a problem that a lot of novels and light novel series suffer from, which is the sequel just not having the same spark and the same ideas to it that the original had. Because Hibike Euphonium, the first season is based on a novel, and it feels like it completely explores everything that it set out to be about. It's this exploration of talent, how different characters, at different skill levels are able to perform, and, like, whether or not their lifestyles are really going to allow them to keep getting better. It's about people sort of falling at the wayside on their way to glory kind of thing. It's got this sort of people always compared it to, like, K-On! Meets Whiplash, and, like, there's that element of it that to me was the most interesting part of Hibike Euphonium, was the exploration of talent and how it relates to different people, and how you struggle with the realization of, needing to get better, or not being sure if you can get better, or trying to figure out how seriously you want to take your passion, in a classroom that relies on everyone to be at the top of their game, and where there's, like, a sort of cutthroat atmosphere that it's like, I want to be friends with you all, but we also have to work really hard. There's just a lot going on, a lot of interplay of different thematic elements in the first season, and all that stacked on top of an interesting sort of love story between Kumiko and Reina. There's, like, there's just a lot of different characters with a lot of personality and a lot of their own concerns. And it all builds up to, an obvious build to this one competition. The goal's in sight at the beginning, and it's about building up to that. And it was a pretty strong show. I enjoyed it. I don't think I liked it as much as most people who liked the show did. It was not one of my, it wasn't my outright favorite of the year. I give it an 8, a strong 8. It's a good show. But this season 2, feels like it suffers from a problem that a lot of novels do, of we've already explored the interesting themes, and now we just gotta put out a sequel, so let's just kind of take a character or take a concept and write a whole book about that one thing. We've taken a story that was about a whole lot of things, a whole lot of different themes and characters, and all this maelstrom of ideas. But now we've boiled it down with the second book to just one thing to focus on that sort of expands on the point of the original. And I can't help but feel like this is exactly how this happened, because I've read interviews with the creator of the series where she was saying that, like, she wrote the first book out of a desire to tell a story about wind instruments, because she played one herself. She wanted to set the story in her hometown. It was like a very inspired story. And then the second book she was told to write because the first one was successful and got an anime adaptation. And like in the second one, the same story, or the third one rather. There's 3 books, and the second and third ones, as I understand it, are adapted by season 2, and it just feels so much more light novel-y now watching this second season, because the way that light novel adaptations tend to go is you have the first arc that's introducing you to all the concepts, all the characters, all the intrigue, and then the second arc is usually, or each subsequent book is usually about introducing one new character and one antagonist, and it's all about that one character. You can see this in stuff like Index, or though Index can go a little bit more fucking batshit crazy, but they usually, each book, there's a new girl, there's a new bad guy. If you look at Black Bullet, that was a perfect example of this, where the first arc is like 4 episodes of just chaos, just introducing all these concepts, all this stuff, and the second arc just introduces one new character, and one new conflict. So this show feels like it's doing the same thing, where watching season 1, there was just so much to take in those early episodes. That's what attracted me to the show in the first place, was that it was like sort of in the guise of being a cute girls show, like a 4 girls in high school in a club show, but then very quickly you started seeing all these other themes popping up in the background. Whereas season 2 just feels like a nonstop chain of conversations where it's almost like a mystery show. Like the first fucking episode, which is 45 minutes long and just felt like it went on for my whole life, is pretty much just about Kumiko finding out that there's some kind of issue with this one girl who wants to rejoin the club, who had quit before, and for some reason she can't. And like the whole episode and next episode is basically just about raising the question, why can't this girl join? And then in episode 3, someone explains to Kumiko why this girl can't join. Like the entire basis of the mystery is just the fact that no one will tell Kumiko the facts, and then that stops being the case when someone tells Kumiko the facts. Like there's no story here. There's nothing of interest. It's just like, ooh, I wonder what's this character's deal. Well, here's the character's deal. Now let's resolve the character's deal. Let's resolve that little narrative. Okay, it's done. Let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to talk about Asuka and what's her deal. And there's a big mystery. Her mom's a weird bitch. Well, we got to figure out what's the deal with that, and then eventually we'll try to resolve the situation. And yes, some of those steps along the way might be really interesting. There might be great scenes and great dialogue in the midst of all that. But like, it just doesn't have that sense of natural flow that the first season did. Like, in season 1, I never had the sense that any one character completely had the focus. It was about this group. It was about this naturally evolving scenario. And, like, my least favorite part of season 1 was when it got heavy into the interpersonal drama. When we started getting this one girl was just, like, fighting with the other girls about, like, she wanted her friend to play the trumpet solo, but Reina wanted to play it. That whole arc was kind of obnoxious. And, like, season 2 so far feels like just a lot of that. It's like that exact part of the show, just the interpersonal melodrama, none of the exploration of talent or of these other characters. And also, this bothered me by the end of season 1, but it really bothers me now. I don't understand Kumiko and Reina's relationship, because in season 1, we are told in no uncertain terms that Kumiko is in love with Reina, and Reina is in love with the teacher. However, all throughout the show, it seems as though Kumiko and Reina are dating. Like, they seem to be like a couple, and it's very clear that Kumiko treats her like, I'm in love with you, I want to be around you, and Reina treats her like, I don't know, does she think of her as a close friend? Does she think they're in a relationship? Is Kumiko trying to pursue a relationship with a girl who she knows is in love with someone else, and if she got with the sensei, would probably leave her behind. Like, it's really weird because they're not, like, stating it. Like, whatever the case is, it's all being, like, vaguely hinted at. There's no sense of, like, does Kumiko, like, does she have a problem with the fact that fucking Reina's in love with Sensei? If so, they haven't explained that. It seems weird that that wouldn't be the case. Why is she, like, pursuing a relationship with this girl who doesn't seem to want a relationship with her, and yet acts as though they are in one? It's super weird, and I don't understand what exactly is the nature of their relationship. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe I have an overly simplistic view of romance or something, but it's driving me fucking crazy. That I just feel like Reina is stringing Kumiko along, and Kumiko, I guess, is just down for that. She surely recognizes it. I don't know what Reina's getting out of their relationship. Maybe she just sees them as friends. I really don't know. But yeah, it's confusing, and it doesn't seem to be making any real progress because now the show is all about the other characters. It's all about these other little dramas that are popping up, you know, and yeah, it just doesn't have that same density of interesting concepts that the first season had. And so I found myself very quickly just disinterested. Like, the show is beautiful to look at. It's beautiful to watch. All the characters are gorgeous. The land that they inhabit is gorgeous. You know, it sounds good. I like Kumiko's, like, weirdly dry, non-anime performance. I had read somewhere that the voice actresses were told in season 2, like, specifically, don't even worry about sounding like cutesy or moe, just sound more natural. And it seems like Kumiko and Reina are, like, really, like, doing that. Like, they really sound natural. They really don't sound anime. But then everyone else still sounds kind of anime, so it's a little weird. But I like, you know, what those two are doing. I like that they sound more natural and cool, but so much of this season is just characters having conversations about the plot. They're just discussing the fucking story of, like they're discussing one another's problems. One character says, this is what's going on with those two, and then everyone else sits around and goes, oh, how do we resolve what's going on with those two, you know? Anyway, I've ranted a while about that. You know, part of me wants to finish the show because I feel weird about not. I mean, I enjoyed the first season enough. It's not like this is bad. I'm just so uninvested in it, and I don't see myself, like, loving it by the end. Even if there's some great scenes, you know, that might even be worth watching. Like, I don't want to sit through the whole show to get to those when I've already been so disinterested. It kind of is like when I watched Kimi ni Todoke Season 2. Well, it hasn't pissed me off nearly as much as that did. Like, the last few episodes of Kimi ni Todoke Season 2 were like, good and would have been great if they had come right after Season 1. But the 7 episodes prior were so bad that it's like, well, was it even worth it? Was it worth watching all of it just to get to those couple of good scenes? And, like, maybe it might be, but it's not going to make this... It's not going to be a show that lives up to the first season because that show didn't have this problem of just taking forever to even get interesting. Alright, that's enough. See you in the next one, by the way. This is probably the last part of this episode.